Sound.
Namaste. Can you hear me?
No?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Namaste, Your Holiness. On this second day of Vidyaloke, Bengaluru, our heartfelt welcome and deep gratitude for the precious time you spent with us yesterday. It is once again a privilege to be in your presence, Your Holiness, for this talk on Indian wisdom in the modern world. I'm Veer. As the founder of Vana Foundation, I would like to thank all of you for being here. And to those of you who have traveled from afar, I would like to thank our patron donor, Max Life Insurance Company Limited, major donor Vana, and donor Sujata Keshavan for supporting today's auspicious gathering. Thank you once again to Snehadhara Foundation, Mimamsa at Foxtrot, Entrepreneurs Organization, Insignia Events, Garden and Flowers, Karnataka Police, His Holiness Dalai Lama's office, and the Conrad Hotel team. Your Holiness, your consistent support and encouragement for Vidyaloke is crucial for us. With your blessings, we will continue to work towards a genuine revival of India's sublime ancient wisdom and to share the Buddha's path and Nalanda's wisdom with modern-day Indians. Since our inception last year, over 6,000 people have had the opportunity to benefit from Your Holiness's wisdom through Vidyaloke in 3 different cities, for which we thank you. Friends and elders, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is an infinite source of inspiration for me. Sometimes I hear His Holiness being described as innocent, childlike, and even simple, yet what I feel for him is awe and the deepest admiration. It is not fate or divine intervention, I believe, that makes His Holiness the human being and spiritual practitioner that he is. It is his study, his effort, his spiritual legacy, and a tireless spiritual practice to embody the ultimate truth. To be such is also within our reach. We can all strive for enlightenment and even work to benefit others so that they may strive for theirs. What better way to embark on this endeavor than to study the ancient wisdom of India, of Shunyata, of Pratitya Samudpada, which are also the unifying threads that quietly weave through every culture of this land. Let us now hear one of the most beloved human beings of our generation, a precious jewel of our times, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I hope last night, I think most of you may got sufficient sleep, so that on my talk will not go sleep. If among the audience you see show this way, then my enthusiasm also lose. The audience fully alert, attentive, then my sort of enthusiasm also then come. So now today, Kasadi.
Ancient wisdom and modern world.
Kasa.
Now is
Ancient wisdom,
modern world.
So ancient wisdom and
Modern world.
modern world. That's my favorite sort of subject. As I briefly mentioned yesterday also, it's a world in spite a lot of material development and technology, science, these things. But the emotional level, we really passing through some kind of emotional crisis. So in that respect, prayer, like myself, Buddhist, I think few hours meditation and prayer, but prayer bring short period peace, very useful, but not necessarily long, so there's a long period. And also in the terms of society, community, humanity, I don't think prayer much useful. Right? Not much useful, I don't think. Perhaps. So, the important is individual oneself. See, trying to bring inner peace. That the knowledge about emotion, about mind, and also I think a knowledge about reality. So these things very important. So I respect all different religious traditions. Among my friends, wonderful human being, among the Christians, among the Jews, among Hindus, among Muslims, and so on. So that shows all major religious traditions have same potential to bring a sensible human being, peaceful human being, compassionate human being. And most of the major religious traditions, their main emphasis pray to God or to Allah or to different the names of Supreme Creator. But in this country, over 3,000 years, you see, it developed training our mind in this country. Besides prayer, just training with fuller knowledge about mind, about emotion. So we call the shamatha, single-pointed meditation, and vipassana, analytical meditation. In this country, over 3,000 years, we see these practice develop. So now that today's world, I really feel whether believer or non-believer, training of mind is very relevant. As yesterday I mentioned, the hygiene of physical important. Similarly, hygiene of emotion is very, very important. So now, in that respect, Indian tradition, very, very, relevant. So as I mentioned yesterday also, the ancient Indian knowledge, not only ancient one, but also very relevant to today's world. And then, again, you see India's tradition, over, I think, several thousand years, the concept of secular. You see, training of our mind, not necessarily be religious believer. So whether believer or non-believer, training of mind is something relevant. So therefore, I think 1,000 years, India's tradition of secular. In the West, some of my friends, when I used the word the secular, some of my friends, some Muslim, some Christian, they suggest to me this word not something suitable, because secular means in the West, you see, it brings some kind of sense, disrespect religion and distance from religion. It is understandable. I think during French Revolution and Bolshevik Revolution, I think both cases, there is some tendency to against religion. But that actually, we should make distinction. Religion or teaching of religion or dharma, that's love, forgiveness, tolerance. See, even animal very much appreciate love. Nobody can against love. Then there's some sort of tendency to against religion is actually religious institution. So religious institution, unfortunately, sometimes it seems religious institution pay more attention about money, power. So religious institution not remain, I think, pure religious institution, but economy, power, and including sometimes politics, like that. So therefore, like French Revolution, I think, and the Bolshevik, both cases, religious institution, very close link with feudal authority. And the feudal authority seeks some support from God. So God invisible. So they simply, use religious leader. So therefore, when revolution starts, against the existing, institution which very much exploiting working class people, poor people, since they use some special right due to God's blessing. So we need some kind of enthusiasm, even to God, willing to against. So we should make distinction, religious institution and religion itself. So in any way, In the West, the word of secular is a little sort of uncomfortable. Some my friends, as I mentioned earlier, mentioning me. Whereas in this country, secular means respect all religions and also respect non-believer. They say, like Chavaka, nihilism. So the different sort of the spiritual tradition, the school of thought, they criticize Chavaka, nihilism, but they refer people who hold that view called Rishi, means because of sage. So there is clear indication. The theoretical level argue, criticize, but person who hold that nihilism respect. So that's in India's tradition. They respect non-believer or radical kasoda, atheist. Respect. So that's, I think because of this country, so many different philosophical views there. Even within Nalanda tradition, there are different philosophical views. So quite often, debate, argue, but with respect. I think that's, one India's greatness. So therefore, the secular concept, I think, very relevant to today's world. I think, as I mentioned yesterday, out of 7 billion, 1 billion non-believer, very clear. So, these non-believer also human brothers, sisters, they also want happy life, peace of mind. So they should learn these things in order to create happy life, happy individual. Not talking about next life or heaven, just simply how to make happy, peaceful, joyful person. Like that. So then, India's kosa, wisdom. Wisdom. And modern world, as I mentioned, briefly mentioned, is in these ancient Indian knowledge, I think very practical, very realistic. So, still relevant to today's world. Of course, I think Muslim population on this planet around, I think, billion. Christian as well. Hindu. Few years ago, when I discussed some Indian, my friend, they say Hindu 600 million. Then Buddhist about 300 millions. So together, less than 100,000, less than billion. So these also the people follow of these different religious traditions. They truly found benefit to their daily life, particularly when they are passing through difficult situation beyond their sort of kasoda effort
control, beyond their control. No.
Beyond their control. Then still we need hope. So they believe God, religion, keep hope. So very useful. Like that. So I think one simple example, when small child, when they face some sort of shocking sort of situation, whether their mother there or not, they simply say, "Ma, ma, ma." So that, since childhood, mother is the dearest and closest. So like that, when passing through some difficulties, we just, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh Allah, 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 like that. So that provides us basis of hope. So some useful. And then, more important is all major religious tradition, as I mentioned yesterday, religion of human being. So therefore, all these different religious traditions carry the message of human good, also the quality, human value. That's human love. Now more, a philosophical or deeper, complicated sort of matter. My English not sufficient. So that I am going to speak Tibetan. Then he will translate. Occasionally, I may use my broken English. Jahaliyada Pajer law the Chalupami say yorda dear Kanshita. Karakani mene law Pajer Tonda Kasha Kone, Semham Ripu called Tona Chadua. The Rigatone, any Chigi. That's some come to say in the Tagila, Chig's Rogers of Kugi, and any Chuluk. Kunjo Dramender to Shadiach. Any Ricky, Tappen, Sajiti, change, or the nail deal of Judo, because that Lopez Donna Kashabone, Changjim Chungyari, that and Sautang children better, any person. And women do that. Shawkanda, Tejus, Latin, Buddhism, Lun Tade, so on the city, Changjim Ashurisha. Any Tangjengi, she's in Shuzanga, Namsha shed. Loa. And so, because of Jizo Sajita, the Drugan did Namju Dram the Tanyong and the Jizo che, the Dilunion and the Dashiri Gibuche, the new Tandam de Bache, studied the Kuzo de Bache, those shake of the one. So some of the Shandamic that's chatting. That didn't mind the motivation, Dramenda, the Wangushiri. That Changjan or Changjan Harjabada, Hamebus Nishan, Changjan Harjabe, Jikobo Shed, Changjan Hamebe, Jikobo Mendubri. Tatiando Chisu in Tichumbre, Jibuba. Jibube, any Jikobo Mendubrisha. Dijera Sanjay Chuchumari, Jikobo Mendubrisha. Di Junzi, Saul Tomayomaris, Jikobo Satuko Maris, Saul. Yeah, Tomayomaris. Saturday to Sane, Tomayama Yondenish. The Gobo Buchik is South Gurkemache. The Rigatone, any Gawamango, Ziondash, Gawal Tomabeva, or the Vegetarian Hamiba, Vegetation Yari, and Jibuti Savasharisha, and Dishu Sanjeva, Sanjeva Churu, or the Tiki, the sauce Lanendra. Sems, Travel Sems, the Sems Lavnendra, Kanda, Tomova Cheri. So the Jitago Guamdo. So Taco, less Sangel than any Gua Sangan not so yonder to shed it too.
So in India, there was this tradition where there was a belief in people living infinite number of years, kind of, whatever the case may be. What the Indians have done is that they have taken interest in learning or knowing about our human psychology or emotions. And so since there was this need for people to keep their hope in something they could actually believe in, therefore, what happened was there was this idea of believing in some kind of a God, a creator, whom they can keep their hope in. And so within the Indian philosophical tradition, there was, according to some Buddhist scripture, it mentions that Sankhya school of philosophy evolved first, and then maybe it evolved a few thousand years ago. And then from there, many different strands of Hindu philosophy also emerged. And so the Sankhya school believed in what is known as the 25 objects of knowledge. And within this, one is called the primal factor, or pradhan. And from the pradhan, it is believed that the rest of the evolutes, emerged, the 24 evolutes, as they call it. And so what this shows is that in Indian tradition, there was a lot of thinking and critical thinking that has gone into this kind of philosophical traditions. And because of this critical thinking, these different philosophical traditions emerged. And then within the Sankhya school, we have two sub-schools, one believing in a creator God, and the other one not believing in a creator God. And within this, the second, regarding those who
God
don't
as
believe,
a creator.
Within the Indian philosophical system, there are three schools which didn't believe in a creator God, and which are the non-theistic Sankhya school, Jainism, and Buddhism. And the reason why these three schools don't believe in a God as a creator is because of believing in the beginningless, life, that there is no beginning to life. Even though they don't really believe in a creator God, they do still assert that there is life going on. And so based on that, then there was this belief in the reincarnation. So we have, when beings have taken rebirth many times. And so this is based on whether it's called soul or consciousness. This principle is the basis on which this reincarnation is explained. And then on top of that, why we take rebirth in samsara is because of karma as well.
就说，三界呗，다 써야 돼. 가슴을 계속 써. 풍불에 전신배 덕지랑 다 되면도 그래. 다 써야 돼. 풍봉을 때는 딱 섬지시려. 돌에 지들이나 천원라 때는 신도 줘봐다. 대신 풍분 남되네. 군소 섬제 줘봐 있는 셈이. 독실도 와. 저장하다 모디베 아니 다 풍불에 된 셈배다 다지. 지전에 토마베만에 뭐 여등해지기. 디땡네 겨운 것이 라라워시 셔터도가. 자 산제베 된저게 다디 면도버리. 워낙 겨운 것이 삼종에 건드렸었나? 남시 멤버 남시기 년내 멤버 시험 좁스네. 다 셔터도 쪼들이셔. 아니 다가는 풍봉이 안에 수기 풍부 초야 풍부 대든 제대로 초야 풍부를 써도 되지 그걸 지치기도 와. 다가나 풍부든 제대로 공해 시어디 지치기도 와. taku yelu di kazakeshon na shiri sedu nego yelu ene milungu nego yelu ene ni tubuku nego yelu ene chiwa ngondu kyube nego la ene lebe chawri ma zawe da kaso lebe da kada chaw sorbe brain dead then no longer those consciousness which is related with brain no longer there. Then the very, very subtle level of consciousness still there, as I briefly mentioned yesterday also. So now, on that basis, there are young children who clearly express past memory about past life. I think at least around 10 I met. One Padiala, one girl. Many years ago I met. Her memory about past life so clear. And then another girl in Kanpur, also very, very clear memory about past life. So then, one Tibetan boy, born in Lhasa. So then that boy insists, this is not my place in India. That boy insists. Then eventually reach Dharamsala. When with parent and the son come to Dharamsala, the son still say, this is not my place. My place is South India. So eventually reach Mount Court and Gandhan Monastery. The boy say, oh, that's my place. Then that young boy, you see, led the parent and one room in the monastery. Then finally, the boy say, this is my room. And then he also expressed wine glass in that box. And open, yes, one glass there. So, such things, in memory, I think many years ago, one American professor, I think, carried some research. So about 100 cases or something he mentioned. So like that. So the 경험아 전야시 연이다 챙겨와 다고 라트야지 온다지. 그래서 다디 컨디션 거스도나 아니 뜻이랑 다니 요마리 다 이루가는 저래 다 이루를 차라만 굳이 사용도가 다 이루라고 디디 레벨 된데버리 레벨 된데버디 레벨 저 차왔던 가스 배제라 이루 차왔대요마도 이루라고 디디 가서로다 된가서한테 더 남진알이야 아니 니껴는 주야리야 지 류기 니 셰베 주치고를 친 지점 셰마도 레베 십트디 뒤뒤반데 처라시베 그도라 패지 요마르다 서드주장 그도 레베 교과르샤 더리겨서 지 셰베 지담을 먹고지 레버랑 터니 용구여버디디 레베 천주고스 시우지 세우샤도 다이니 시우지 10차고 domniku kanta dra kawo shen kala kansam chi lebe chira sosu ne menda eni di lebe chawa di pensu jik deni yongdaya chigi di shayin do chazang so namzhe nara yang chi gyangbenpa namshi lul dine yomri sa di gaya ki di doz bamsheb shirisha rakpa risha di chenrigo lebe chenrigo chigi 그렇게 시험이나 된간주디 가서 내지 담부디디 시라 14매가 소리도 다다 레벨 체인지부터 드셔야 되는 거 신고야 백해치부터 강타 타르도나 다가나 sheba di ko kada gyodru yeba nga zu tong de yore, nyong de yore. Gyodru ya ki chöji yinshin jala gyodru ya di chinjung ki rana gyu rakwa chigla teni gyodru ki yeba yungi yore, rakwa metabu sa dire. rakwa metabu dinde shi yong tuya di chawe metabu si yeba yinsa rakwa metabu di yong re, chung re da. Chasanga rakwa metabu di chinjung ki gyula togu yore di 차에 메다고 기지기지 지르야 돼. 기지 규랑게 깨버려 마도 친주기 규를 떠야 말해. 지구 친주기 규를 믿어 보세요. 지라마에 아니 선이 계속 시시잖아요. 그래도 기지기지 지부터 시행면도 와. 다 너도의 현실이 기지기지든 지켜야지. 다 차에 메다고 그랬다. 쉬울 계속 시행이야. 자상가 기지기지 지르고 계시기 직루고 여버시 인도산에 직버때 계시기 규께버렸어. 다 규요들 세우셔야고도. 다 규들이야. 아니 뭐부 가다 가네네. 데부티 정신 직버를 지긴 데부티 가서 딱 모르는 경력이 규칙. 디 교도야라 개인층의 규칙. 다年龄 교도 현지시행의 교수 인식도. 그래서 시베年龄 교도 시행도 전에 시바코를 릭투버치 거네. 과라마도 릭메투버치기. 배나 뒤전 뒤처럼 펜부지기 시베年龄 제동 말고. 펜부 年龄 교로 뒤처럼 그 펜부지 고르마도 시베 年龄 규칙문도 와. 자상 속 시바가서 들으려고 그도네. 아니 시절은 늦지도 늦지니 늦어서 속셔봐 되면 늦지는 숨지 아주 샤잉도 와 어다 늦을때디 그 기지기 규기 연도年龄 규지다 현지시행 선도 샤고도 자상 어다 시바 차가는 상당 연도 아니 그 年龄 규지 매나 그 시바 세리 명성 그 등이 쳐지는 그 주신 말에 된지기다等你确实要要年龄绝对过日子不去过的，底下用的那么些明白，那么些年龄明白钱做啥，我大落这个多。但是希望让我干的些呢，倒是来不得这点，来不搞的小金搞这样说的，但希望参与干的嘛都心上当不赢呢，那呢，好的的竞争的大落这个是多。那么这个你们的参与的继续上来的，그 나한테 도스 니리니도 삼로 담이나 지금 삼던데 그게 쉐바코라도 지금 남도로 지금 깨베 괜찮니 아니 룰이야 지금 소화면 잘해야지 이것도 왔어 내가 뭔지 룰이야 지금다 교치베 괜찮니 쉐베 소화면 잘 이것도 왔어 미리게서 러기 대 예에서 스토사 제대 요초고 말이잖아 가다 시바티 류기 레바 류기다 차샤식을 때네 아니 용어를 맞동고 수도 시바시 말이스 다 드리게서 brain specialist now they begin to feel there is something which affect our brain those people see who have some deeper experience to meditate few hours. Then brain activities, some change.
We're talking about neuroplasticity.
Oh, that. You see, they change consciousness, mind. They part
neurons.
Or neurons, they used to say, change, some change. So now, the later part of 20th century, at the beginning of the 21st century, now some scientists, open-minded scientists, now they begin to feel, there is something like that. So,
So in Buddhism, there is a rejection of a permanent, single or unitary and autonomous self, which may be termed as a soul in other traditions. But then if such a permanent and unitary autonomous self is not there, how do you actually explain there is a self? And therefore in Buddhism, what is said is a self or a person is designated on the basis of his or her psychophysical aggregates, these 5 skandhas as they are called. And in a sutra, in fact, it is said that just as a chariot is designated on the parts, on its parts, likewise a person is designated on a person's psychophysical aggregates. And so there is this rejection of such a self which is permanent, single, and autonomous. If that self is rejected, then, as it is asserted in non-Buddhist traditions, then how do we talk about, the rebirth and so forth? And so Master Dharmakirti in his Brahmanavartika Karika says, something which is not a consciousness cannot serve as a substantial cause of consciousness. And so with regard to consciousness, of course, there are the different degrees of subtlety as well, such as consciousness in waking state, in dream state, and then deep sleep state, and then and finally the subtlest consciousness, of course, is that of the consciousness at the time of dying. And so that at that point of time in someone's life, what has happened is the brain. There is also already the brain that happened, and so at that point, the brain is not working at all. But then still, the subtle consciousness remains in the body, and so on the basis of this understanding of the consciousness in Indian schools of thought, there is this explanation of past and future lives, and so His Holiness was talking about people having clear memory of their past lives, such as those girls in Patiala and Kanpur. And in fact, one American, I think a psychologist or someone by the name of Ian Stevenson has done research on rebirth, with scientific proof. And so what these, the fact that people are able to remember something shows that there is a memory of past life. And so even though there's rejection, we don't believe or assert a permanent, single, and autonomous self on the basis of this mental consciousness. And in fact, after brain death, there is this subtle consciousness still in the body, and therefore, although in Brahmanavartika Karika there is rejection of the Indian other schools of thought who kind of believe that consciousness emerges from the body and so forth. There's rejection of such thesis. It seems that those rejections of the positions of the other schools that are given in the Brahmanavartika Karika seems to be quite at a very kind of a primitive or coarse level of rejecting that the body cannot serve as a cause for the consciousness. Because if we look at modern science,
when at the time of Dignac and the Dharmakirti, the scientific sort of knowledge about very detailed about the brain not yet developed. So it's in their way to argue there is no sort of continuation of consciousness. So they argue from Buddhist side.
happens because of the cause which has brought about that thing. And so it is not something that happens after the cause has given rise to the effect as such. I mean, whereby a third entity or third agent comes in. Causes. No. So within the Buddhist philosophical system, there is the philosophical school of the Vaibhashikas. And so Vaibhashikas, for them, for something to disintegrate, what they say is long. In Abhidhamma Koshakarika by Master Vasubandhu, it mentions that according to the Vaibhashikas, when things come into being, and then they remain or subsist, and then there is a decay, and then finally disintegration. So there is some kind of an idea that things come into being and then stays on. And so the fact that things disintegrate is because of that, the third factor, which is the decay and so forth. Whereas, this is a very rough understanding of how things change. According to the other schools of thought, such as Sautrantikas, what they say is things change momentarily, moment by moment. And so nothing stays static at all. And so the moment something comes into being, it is bound to disintegrate. So that's the subtle understanding of subtle impermanence. And then, therefore, what we have to understand is that for things to change, what it shows is that when things change, what it shows is that it is dependent on some cause. And so with regard to the cause, there are basically two main causes, which are called the substantial cause, the basic material, which brings about the thing, and then the called contributing conditions or cooperative conditions. And so with regard to the first cause, which is the substantial cause, what we need to understand is that things arise from a thing which is similar to, in type of to that thing. And so, even with regard to the consciousness, in order for consciousness to arise, there must be a previous moment of consciousness, which is the substantial cause of the consciousness at this moment. And then, just as it is the case with the subtle particles, and so the subtle particles come from the previous moment of subtle particles, and the subtle particles do not have a substantial cause, that of a consciousness. Neither do the consciousness have any substantial cause, which is a particle. And so when we study Buddhist logic primers, we also do have these categorization of things which are called functioning things, as they're called, into three categories, such as the form or matter and consciousness, and then there's a third category called demenduce, which is to say non-associated. So this third category is called non-associated compositional factors. And so to give an example of this, when we talked about things changing moment by moment, so that fact of changing moment by moment itself, it comes under this category. And so it is something that is happening that is an object of knowledge. It's not consciousness as such. It is neither, nor it is a matter as such, or like a form or physical things. But since it is there, it exists when it comes under this category. And so when we talk about the subtle consciousness, called the subtle consciousness, of course, like that moment of the consciousness at the time of dying, for example, it cannot, arise without there being a substantial cause, which is similar in type to it, and therefore we talk about the continuity of consciousness on the basis of that kind of understanding of subtle consciousness. And so, Master Dharmakirti's statement saying that something which is not a consciousness cannot serve as a substantial cause of consciousness as such. And because of that, he's able to prove that there is, consciousness which has come from the past and continuing into the future and so forth. And so once I was having a discussion with scientists in America, American scientists, and I mentioned that when nothing else is happening to you, but you are sitting still, and while you are calmly sitting still, isn't there in this kind of experience where you can actually affect your emotion just by
some
thinking?
Thought, some memory, moment, some change, physical level. So, usually some change, physical level, then the mental level, some change. So sometimes without any physical sort of thing, just thought come, make differences. So I asked some doctor, according to our daily experience, it seems something like that also there. So they say, it looks like that, but should not.
Yes. So this American doctor said that it seems possible that we could affect our body just by thinking our thoughts, but this cannot be so.
Then here one sort of story. One occasion in Japan, one Japanese Nobel laureate about brain or something. So he do not believe beside brain, say the consciousness, nothing there. Meantime, when I met him a few weeks ago, his son passed away. So much worry. So if that worry just related with brain, then I think that part of brain should operate. Then no longer any worry. I felt that. Of course, I didn't mention, but I felt that. Everything due to brain, we can identify the worry come from that part of brain, then surgery, operate, remove that, then no longer any worry. That's how.
No.
Now next, 다 지라마다 너데베 강사 떡지롱에 다 대디 다돈 좀버디 군다르샤 군다가 등실샤 다달로 현재라 풍불로 왕교경이 조더베 강사 랑자와지 당가서 로 시기하래 나가 내류 내섬지 로 시기도가 어디 디기 아니 녀몽게 자와지기하리스 전에 어디 디니 숙충 땅거레스 매워 소레스 다 들려야 강사가 담이서 디소브리 다데 저지 아니 너 냠베 로티기 미베 나 아니 풍불로 왕주게 조더 랑자와스 로르 샤데야 dim never took some quality in a she Lü di du de, ji din zhe ge ta ne cha dang jia ge lo shi du as,是吧? 아니, 풍급 지지 ngai ji da, ga su ge long zhe de sa zhe zhe li, chen bi qia ba yong se de. Yi ne nga de man zhe ta ne ji 풍급 지지 ge che le ya ya. 민니 차단 기하도가 대년보 컨디션에서 러이나 다데 섬섬의 연전이 최이담이 사실이 나 강사가 다도 매와 된적이 다 강사가 다음에 디 토라 아니 풍속이 최 아니 나온다도 매대버지기 다 주야 시작을 강사가 다음에 토라 최지담에서 시작을 롱저버도 강사가 다음에 즉 롱제제 풍속이 다음에 직신 다들 그래야 아니 섬섬배 다 지든 가야 돼. 다 될리움도. 즉 소속이 전쟁문에 여기서 나온데 다디 아마리스 다디 퀀텀 피지क्स 샤도 찍버려셔. 자 섬섬배 아니 송진 이동 그때 권한이 순두잖아요. 아니 치송 답변은 속도 붙여셔나 이 송진 미식 리아 속나에 찬에 속사 샤브레스 파자는 이야기네요 말이지 간다 속속 최디디 런진 떡배 아니 간에 파샤 세니 그다 간다 이니지 그게 짐보부 소리다 짐보부 다 되게 다 남시들 이니다 근시 남시 써야 되는데 가서 계시 총송아 와다 드지 전에 가다 남시기 때문에 파자 세네 런진 글로티 때문에 파자 세도기 소속이 되도 나를 마도 속치리도 줘야 말이스 전에 와다 송어든 짐보 자타데바 니 매바 송의 셔디리 짐베 남도 때문에 파자 샤테바치레스 파자 떡이 넘버 샤테바 섬레스 송어치리도 줘야 말이스다 디케셰 다디 컨트로버시 따다 로데로
So, according to the philosophical schools of Bhashika and Sotantikas, what they say is that, this notion of a self, which is permanent, single and autonomous, is something which is called acquired kind of misconception. Whereas there is an innate misconception of a self, which is, they say, it's this sense of a self, which we have this notion of a self, which is like ruling the psychophysical aggregates. And so, because of that, the rest of the negative emotions, the mental afflictions and so forth also arise. And therefore, they say in order to reduce this and finally eliminate it, we need to actually understand there is no such a self. No, what is known as the substantially, self-sufficiently existing self, which is like a ruler or two of the psychophysical aggregates. And they, therefore, call this the selflessness of a person. And so having said that, if you ask them, of course, in relation to the sense of an I, we have a notion, this is mine, and, my body, my resources, wealth, and so forth. But then how about doing away with this sense of a self, which has, which is not related this to this notion of an I, And so on the basis of which we can also have, attachment, anger, hatred, and so forth. So how to counter that kind of a sense of a self? And then therefore here Chittamatras come to say that, of course, the Chittamatra and the higher schools of philosophy within Buddhism say that apart from a selflessness of persons, there is also selflessness of phenomena as well, which is related to the selflessness with regards to the psychophysical aggregates, not the person or the self, but the psychophysical aggregates and the resources and so forth. And so the Chittamatras, what they say is that there is no external, things that exist externally. And so their view of rejection of any externality to things is similar to the modern quantum physics idea of no objective existence of things. And so what the Chittamatras assert is that they assert this non-duality of subject and object. And so, for example, if you have a physical object, which is the object of one's own visual consciousness, and so the object and the visual consciousness, this physical object and the visual consciousness, are not. There's no duality between these two. Why? Because they say that the fact that the physical object appears to your visual perception is because of a certain imprint that is left in our mind. And yesterday we did touch on this topic of alaya vijnana. And so this foundational consciousness, or the mind basis of all. And so this is the consciousness on which all the imprints from the past life or this life are which carries all those imprints. And because of those imprints, we have the perceptions of physical objects, and this is the reflection of the perception of that physical object. And therefore, for the Chittamatras, the object, the physical object on the sight, and the visual perception are non-dual in the sense that they are not substantially different. And so they say this. They talk about the non-duality of the subject and object. And so this, according to the Chittamatras, is could be understood in terms of the selflessness of phenomena.
다 드네게 떠주되기 치유 속소 라 아테근 진배 겜배 차상계야라 바지디 치유전을 좀 요마레스라베이나 진배 땡네 박사사 도시마도 그게 요마레스라베이나 최면 편서로와 다이네 녀의 디도디 쉐바란 게 땡네 녀의 디도 연구를 받다 다 데려야 차상계야디 디판도 하다 진배 남도 코레가네 지 디도 초청 용데 버텔라 아테근 집을레 인도산에 치진 요마레스라베네 패마송 자자가 단 넘리베 치든가 쉐바 된주셔야지 자 따디 캡처부지 저기야 말에 자 따디리 인도산에 치송하다 난 짐바 니가로 담버 못 버렸어야 그 우메 따와데 따딜레 서울치 말에
And so, of course, when the Chittamatras say that there is no externality to the things, it may help in countering our attachment to things which we perceive as being outside of us. But then, how would it actually counter the emotions such as attachment, anger, hatred that are within ourselves? There are internal experiences. And so Chittamatra view can help to counter the attachment towards things that are outside of us, but then how does it actually counter the emotions, negative emotions within ourselves, the internal experiences? And to this, of course, there is the Madhyamaka philosophical school, which says that things do not have any independent existence on the one hand, whether they talk about externality or not, and they we can counter the attachment and so forth when we think about things having no independent existence outside or internally. And therefore, the Madhyamaka view, which says that, which asserts, on the one hand, maybe there is no externality to things, and internally also, because the subjective mind itself, the perception and cognition and so forth, which also do not have any independent existence, that can counter the attachment, internal attachment.
배나 송아 속도 파 차샤파 chen 차전 모임베 참이 치 샤토함도 와 봐. 고타르는 düzen 집이 있네 고 초지차 차실 집이 있네 고 여여랑 싫어 고 여여랑 시 인도잖아요 고 요스를 전에 고 도스 드라이지 봐 그래서 그 가르쳐내 고 륜징을 차치다 겹징을 차 그러다 그 연대로 다들 인도 참이 전에 믿어 그러다 사들 인도 차산이 중대버지기 dinri indu zane da ado quantum physics da gara ne ko dos ba ta za indu zane da du tro ga chi ko ni ya me ba cha indu zane ni chi de min du sa ji sha yung yo re o da de ribut di na shebal so cha ri ne ji bu du re sheba sumi su jen min du zane cho ji cha da yo ma re di tu nge chi cha yo re sa ki ji nge chi cha yo re 자상고 대배차 마홍배차 대배차는 가버래 마홍배차는 중주리 다다와들이 다다와서도 봐봐 찌시면 있는 지 다다와 콜레 제가 대봐 제가 마홍바 다다와서 그렇게 이해합니다 즉 시바 끼진 거지 자체로서는 시바 다다와서 저 하려면 이해합니다 그러다 유리고 녀에 등이 최디 다다와 되는 상담마도 건대만 가서를 전배 유리 마음바디 중주리 사고 도스바 따든 전에 그다 기진 것이 차신 따든 전에 치유 숙소 그쳐 초지 차신은 니야메바 나시 나 심기에 기진 것이 차신은 니야 켜는 거
So with regard to the physical things or matter, what we can understand is that if you break the things down into the smaller called parts and down to the smallest called units, we find that there is nothing which is particle as such. So with regard to the matter, we cannot have things which are partless. Even if you take the subtlest subatomic particles, the fact that something moves shows that there is kind of a temporal kind of extension. And so also there is. It shows that when something moves, it shows that there is a part to it which is in the front and part which is in the rear side. And so even when you go into the subtlest particles like that, the subatomic particles, we cannot find anything which is partless, indivisible, and so forth. And so this is similar to what the scientists also say, that when they actually look at the subatomic particles, I mean in anything, when they look at anything, they actually don't find anything having any objective existence as such. And so just as the matter outside does not have anything that is partless, likewise with regard to the internal world of experience of consciousness, and also because it changes moment by moment. I mean, there's nothing which is partless also. And so when you take an experience of consciousness, an internal experience within yourself, you can say, oh, I have this experience, I had this experience, which is a past experience, and then you can say, I may have this experience, which is a future one, and then you also talk about, I'm having this experience. But when you talk, the moment you say this experience in the present, what you can find is that this also has changed. And so half of it is already gone and half yet to come. And so in this way, both in the world of physical, matter, as well as the internal world of consciousness, does not have anything which we can say is partless.
Oh, yeah. 세상다 우마베 우마바 낭세 하면 라면다 요래. 에네 다소 뱅고하고 루루기 시진기 공부디 마 짜인르자네 시로인고 우다가 속동보 동반이 소소소를 동반이 샤만이 동반이 이제 소샤만이 노사게 와다 치디기다 단다데 마 소연도 아니 대니 속동보 동반이 소소사 치디기 아니 자 동바사 계제디 때네 딱베 계제레 마도 쟤네 많이 베게 지고 말이스 때네 딱베 되리스 라 tension devon jumoga tene tongbanyi du she tene dagwade tini umen lami nos chana oda songsha tati shijin ki gomba pe ji chibo daisha barisha chizan suk tongba was mazu tongde ya suso ki shedi idi dadu zane nya ya maris suk tongba was tongba ni suk sos lode dadu zane ni gyu mebe chi indu zane eni ko shen la tene 작배권에 이해되어지 차버려. 근데 인도 동반이 속속스. 엔디 쇼데 솔레 동반이 샤만이 동반이 수시만이 노시 대니 뭐 어찌부터 송도가. 세상에 배고 하고 루루기 때는 딱고 준제도 쳐야지 뭐니지 뭐 줘버렸어. 매백에서 말했어. 때는 딱고 인상 요랬어. 그래서 때는 딱고 인상 나와도 주요 말했어. 자, 딱 대니 계시 쉬우지. 세부 실수도가 어디지 자들이 인도자네 근시 땡중문이 비 청거에 보면 비 뜻이 또 보면 비 청거에 보면 이노스 지그러시
So within the Madhyamaka philosophical system, there are, of course, sub-schools within it, and different assertions are there amongst the Madhyamakas. But when we take Master Nagarjuna's position of in the Madhyamaka philosophical system, Master Nagarjuna, when he comments or explicates the meaning of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, in one of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, in fact, the Heart Sutra says, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. Form is not other than emptiness, and emptiness too is not other than form. How Master Nagarjuna explains this is, he says, whatever is dependently originated is said to be empty. And that itself is said to be designated, and that is the middle way. So what he says is that when Buddha says the form is empty, this is not a rejection of form or physicality of things, but that the form or the physical object arises in dependence on other factors. And therefore, the form is empty of any inherent or independent existence, which is to say, that it does not arise or come into being without depending on other factors. And And then it's called when the Heart Sutra says that emptiness is form, what this shows is that things, it doesn't mean that, since things are unfindable, therefore it's empty. But what you have to understand is that since things are unfindable, when we do critical analysis and search for their identity, although things cannot be found when you put them under this kind of a critical lens of searching for their identity, yet things are there, physical objects are there because they are dependently arisen. And so this is how Master Nagarjuna understands this phrase of form is empty, emptiness is form. And then having said these two, the Heart Sutra, the next two statements say that form is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is too is not other than form, means that they are, in fact, emptiness of form and form are of the same essence or nature.
Oh, yeah.
And therefore, Master Nagarjuna, what you have to understand is because of the reason of dependent arising, dependent origination of things, that things can actually exist while they are empty. And therefore, Master Nagarjuna says, since there is nothing which is not dependent, therefore there's nothing which is not empty.
강기 댄신 저번중 통대 통대is 동해당 군중당은 고바다 람 하자다 람이자 통인스 다 드리샤 댄신 저번중 세하게 드셔도 되는데 댄신 남샤데 지치무 샤트라지 데 애니 su tongbo ni su sa de de ngo ye me ke shen do sma dan na da wa yi mo jun zhen de de ngo yi zhe dong da di li ma du xian yun de guo den de de ga ne ani lo le de ge do wa cha sang ga dan xin de wo ju me ten chi ji ma lo wa nge ba de gi zhen zhen de gi chong go tang bo song ya ge dong he de mo gun ju de mo guo wei de mo lam ye de ba de che ju me za su ju ru sa de chi chi mo de xie jiu ya ji da
So, as Master Nagarjuna also says in the Mulla Madhyamaka Karika, so one who is able to see dependently originated things can actually understand those of the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Truth of suffering, origination of suffering, and origin of suffering, and then true cessation and true path. And so what this shows is that because of dependent origination, we can understand what the Buddha has taught in the first sermon, which is the sermon on the Four Noble Truths, that things come into being through dependent origination on causes and conditions and so forth. And therefore, when you understand dependently originated nature of things, you can understand the suffering origin, and particularly that of the true cessation, which is brought about by the true path. And in other words, when you understand that of the dependent origination well, what you can understand
고불을 주고 싸우시던 날이야. 아니 레다 녀모 세베 탈바도 뭐였어. 탈바세드 가래. 레다 녀몽바 그게 또 동행이 자와 아니 삭제겠다 레 코아펜치 삭제레 대자와 녀몽 된제겠다 레다 녀몽 바 녀부께베 떡이 라 깨미론도치 라를 베겠다 중앙에와 된제지 차소나 다들 타바세레스 레다 녀몽 세베 타르스 어나 디 근저 중거르스라베이나 디 점제 근저스라나 레당 시보 코에 동에디 레지왕 총어리 레디 녀모왕 총어리스 레당 녀모인데 남사 덴질이 총어스라나 그냥 남사 가서 로를 시켜기면 되고 레당 녀모 남돌레스 그러다 녀모 이동을 민니 당돌레 하장 타직도 셴베 더샤 이도 명화를 겹기 좋아하네 바 민두바 기야치기 된대기 롯데 취미지가 남돌 때는 총알이었어 다디 쉬우지 세버려셔 레다 녀모 남돌레스 다디 한다 내가 워싱베 아다 아메리게 디지 거다 그 생각을 좀 해주지 또 미 콩로라네 콩로세니 심 투댕이 밀리아 주도층에 지르샤 코란로 로 주라 가시는 독스 코란 프로페셔널 디제도와 거기 디스도 셰단 잡을라네 아니 셰단 계세 유디 나윤도 전에 하장 믿고 싶은 거리스 디자서 고주타바 남도 셰단랑에 셰단 규를 등에 강상 코란 게 남도 최샤마도 템퍼레미투스 어디 보고 디스도 단디 안더 취미지게 남도 좋다는 중부스도 세브 쉬우시죠.
So the Buddha first gave the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, and then later he gave teachings on the perfection of wisdom discourses. And within the teaching of the Four Noble Truths, also there is the teaching on the what is known as the 12 links of dependent origination. And so, so according to this, the 12 links of dependent origination, what it shows is how the causes and conditions of samsara gives rise to our suffering, the various types of suffering, and so forth. And then we also need to understand within that of the how suffering and its origin can be ended. And so, with regard to the called elimination of suffering, Master Nagarjuna says by eliminating or by exhausting karma and afflictions, mental afflictions. When you end them, then there is that of liberation. And so karma here refers to those of the impure or uncontaminated karma, and then which created because of our mental afflictions, negative emotions, and so forth, which are the roots of these karmas. And so when you are able to develop the antidote to these negative emotions, and then what you can do is you can actually eliminate those negative emotions or mental afflictions from within your mind to such a degree that they no more come back in your mind stream. And so that is what is known as liberation. And so Master Nagarjuna says, continues in this verse, saying that the karma and these mental afflictions arise through conceptual constructs. So what he means is, when we see something attractive or unattractive, what happens to us is we actually cling on to that attractiveness as if it's something out there, objectively, independently, and therefore becomes attached to the thing.
Now here, one my friend, one American scientist, when I first met him, his age, 84. So a lot of experience helping people who really experience a lot of stress, a lot of anger. So he advised, he treated such a person. Then, through few decades, his conclusion is when people feel very sort of full of anger, the object which they feel angry appears very negative. But actually, 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. This is exactly Nagarjuna stated that. That mental projection come on the basis of appearances, or there is truth, objectively, the object side, something independent, absolute, negative, or pleasant or unpleasant. That creates the attachment and anger. So now, the 유치던 나오는 시 담벌 셴버티기 용대하듯이 어디 대다 들려서 차다 덴징기 남도 왕기 전쟁문에 여지 저배 나와샤대 텔레송어레스 대다 들려 저번이 동본 니기 가고 주로서 제대 자리나 람덴시 내루 치신 셰베 로데기 내루로 몽베 내루로 치로도 또베 겐게 남도 샤데바디디 아니 가왕 가루르슬로나 동본 니투 가본 주로서야기 니시술 자리나 데 콜로르 지금 아주 숨겨요 레자 콜 니두스 동본 니기 가본 주로서 제대체 동본 니투 가본 주로서 제대자나 람데 데 동본 니투스는 라바이나 니시술 자리나 고된 식도 저 책도 넣으시고 시달리죠. 다디 세교견이 자시로 나리야. 아니 드자시나 디무스 넘버 돌린 중 송신 룽그트지. 다디 주지도마 소윤도 전에 도도 미도 친지로 담벌하는 중인 줄스. 유 이도 공원 넘버 돌에 봐. 남도 좋다니. 텔레는 되자. 유 미투보들 체 미투보들 르다니 대래는 시단지야지 것도这送的像这这边的东关已经搞完就东关你送搞完就是这个修正的全部人这三个这几个都还不操什么着那路路现场人路路早是这边修正开始不这个像这个前面着路路的天的山通运的山呢다 선생님의 송진이동 갈래시 시부시견시 직주샤 시든 과야서 주제리 갈래 매매 갈래를 삼차용 그이네 루루고 dom직견 송윤도다 하대버도 시부지샤
And so to continue with the teaching, when this the American psychiatrist Aaron Beck said that there is this, when we are angry, you become, you see the person or the thing totally negative, but then 90% of it that is mentally projected. So this actually is very similar to Master Nagarjuna saying that our negative emotions, these mental afflictions arising from that of what is known as mental construct, or there's this particular term, perhaps the inappropriate mentation. And so that gives rise to our attachment and anger and so forth. And that itself is actually rooted in this clinging to some kind of independent objective existence in things. And therefore, the Master Nagarjuna this inappropriate imitation or the conceptual construct is rooted in, that arises from this fabrication. And fabrication is ended by that of emptiness. And so with regard to this the final line, fabrication is ended by emptiness, or the wisdom realizing emptiness. In the Sanskrit version of the text, my teacher, Kunalama, the master from Kinor, Kunalama Tenzin Gyatsen Rinpoche, has said that the Sanskrit line can be actually interpreted in two ways. One is to say that the fabrication, which is this clinging to independent existence or true existence in things, is ended by wisdom, which shows that of the agent which brings about the cessation, which is to say the true path. And so when you take this as an instrumental case, then it refers to the agent, which is the true path, which gives rise to the realizing emptiness. And then when you actually take this as a case of in another case, which could be translated as in the Sanskrit version, according to the Sanskrit version, that same line can be read as this fabrication is ended within, or dissolved within the called emptiness. So when you take interpret it in that way, then this refers to that of the true cessation, which is brought about by the true path. And so Master Nagarjuna further goes on to clarify this point when he says in Mula Madhyamaka Karika that desire, anger or hatred and delusion are said to be, are stated to arise from conceptual construct. So with these two lines, he's actually, trying to quote Buddha's scriptures. And then as a reason to this, to prove that, he goes on to say that because of this inappropriate thinking of things being attractive, or unattractive objectively, there is this misconception within ourselves, which is called the inappropriate imitation. And so,
어디를 가서 지금이야.
So when we have desire or anger, what happens is there is this exaggerated way of looking at things, being attractive objectively independently or unattractive objectively independently. And therefore, because of that kind of a fabrication or that kind of a superimposition on things, we become angry or attached. And so when I reflect on these teachings of Master Nagarjuna, perhaps it may have to do with some kind of a sense of passion, with Master Nagarjuna's philosophical tradition. I feel that, the Chittamatras, the mind-only school of thought of Buddhism, trying to, prove that there is no external things, no externality to things, by using all kinds of reasonings, which in the end doesn't really stand, they're not able to, stand to the test of reasoning. I feel that they have taken lots of pains for really nothing.
Oh, yeah. And that did what? 대남신데 남체체에 남도유보 모인신 대래 현도유보 식된 작별관의 여보인스 유지면은 따다자는 싸우는 이야기죠. 치수원이네 남즈보이네 싸우는 이야기죠. 어느 패널 직도 왔을때 타냐도 작별왕이요. 그랬어. 지선에 치수원의 남즈보 여차고 기면도가. 자기네 인도산에 뱅거하고 루루기 오면 나와 송야지 다 시우지 뭐네 줄라 다 ngoynesu yindenge ngoynesu yimbatigi yimbatam 도 마세베 말한줄 차당 녀모지야 들고 딱딱 직 내통해지도 와 지라도 자상가 되는 고물로 주고 리지터 나리야 우머리지터 나라 당이 당이 직된디 라미 청주 통되나 대사와 청주섬 영원제와 따뜻한 청주섬 지체 총대도배 대사와 총대도배 닝지체 니르메데 예시 동力다와들이 어떤 남게 줘야겠다 탑 닝지 자워를 집에 장주고 씁니다 동力다와되다 냐면이야 소를 쇼를 했을 때 소리
And so when we analyze things, for example, in the case of a chariot, as it is mentioned in Madhyamaka Avatara by Master Chandrakirti, he says that when you analyze or search, for the identity of a chariot, and using what is known as the sevenfold reasoning, nothing whatever, it's the parts of the chariot or the composite, the fact that the parts are put together and this assemblage of them and so forth can be found to be as the chariot. But having said that, he says, because of, worldly convention, and we can still say, although chariot cannot be found, when you search for that identity in the parts and so forth, yet the chariot can be asserted through worldly renown or conventions. And so what this actually gives us is that although things do not have any independent objective existence as such, yet we can actually talk about this being this being that, and so forth. And so the understanding of the lack of any independent existence, yet saying that, while saying that the things have conventional existence, actually, tallies with reality itself. And so the understanding also counters our negative mental afflictions as well, such as attachment, lust, anger, and so forth. And so to sum up, Master Nagarjuna also says in the Ratnavali, the jewel garland or precious garland, he says that if oneself and others, for oneself and others, one wishes to attain the highest enlightenment, what one need to cultivate are the threefold practices, which he refers to as the bodhicitta, and then the compassion, this limitless compassion, and then the non-dual wisdom. So with these, with the combination of the compassion or bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness, what we can do is that we can actually overcome our delusions and negative emotions and attain our goal.
So, according to my own experience, the practice utilize our intelligence fully and think the reality, shunyata. Really immense help to reduce, to weaken the negative emotion. Really wonderful. My own case, I think, last over 60 years, over 70 years, when I was in Tibet, I studied. I already developed the interest about concept of shunyata, Madhyamaka philosophy. Then, after I reached India, I daily basis thinking. And particularly last 15, 20 years, I seriously thinking. really affect my emotion. Wonderful. That's practical result. Then combined with altruism, which mainly relying on Shantandeva's book. Yesterday I mentioned. Wonderful. Wonderful. So Nagarjuna's Madhyamika Avtara, right?
Mula Madhyamaka Karika.
Madhyamika Mula Karika. And Kasachuti, Shantandeva's book. These two books really, I think I may say, provide me best weapon to stalker inner enemy, that is self-centered attitude and grasping as appears, right? Grasping right, as appears. So these two, the ultimate sort of source of all negative emotion. So I really feel, in my daily practice, see, a lot of sort of the visualization, different deities, like Guhisamanza, Hiroka, Yamandaga, and Hebantra, many sort of also the
deity yoga practice.
Deity yoga practice, not much effect. Thinking, analyze these two things really transform my emotion. So, you also, my brothers, sisters, you also, it's the same human being. It's the same potential. So now, study these things in order to transform our emotion. And this very life become something, the meaningful life, and also share with other people, then it is guarantee for next life will be same because of the fortunate life. Like that. So now important, the teacher, in this case, I am supposed teacher. Teacher also spent a lot of years, so you should not expect, over one night, you become Buddha. Nonsense. We need years, decades effort. As I mentioned yesterday, combination, understanding from hearing, understanding through analytical, analyze, and then third level experience, then some experience. So that really then is the effect our emotion. That's the way. So now, kala lunch, ka. So now, sorry. I think one or two questions. I think.
The mic is right here in front, so just one or two questions. And in the interest of time, keep your questions short.
Yes. No.
Namaste, His Holiness. My question is, what is compassion? We as a human being, we are born with compassion, as we are wired to be compassionate, or is it something that somebody has to teach us how to be compassionate?
No. Compassion as a social animal, biologically, we already have the sense of concern of others. But usually, that sort of sense of caring other, sense of concern of others' well-being is very much mixed with attachment. So that kind of compassion cannot extend to strangers and particularly to enemy. So therefore, that compassion is biased and very much mixed with attachment. So now, what kind of compassion which we are talking is unbiased, particularly that sort of sense of compassion towards your enemy, or same sort of strong feeling or well-being of them. That compassion is unbiased compassion. And that kind of compassion comes through practice, reasoning, meditation, analytical meditation. So as I mentioned yesterday, Shantadeva's 6th chapter create foundation of that. And then 8th chapter mentioning infinite altruism. Like that. Next question.
I'm a liver transplant surgeon, and I heard you say brain death. After brain death, there is consciousness. How do you interpret organ donation? I want to ask this because it's an organ donation day tomorrow.
It's very good. You see, protect the patient's life. And then there are many cases in the past, the genuine practitioner, they give their eyes or some their physical organs. Now today, heart plantation also, you see, possible. So if they give whole brain, then we have to calculate if my life, something useful, worthy to, because alive,
Live alive. Live alive.
live a life, then you have to think very, very seriously. Then also you see, think seriously, the person who you suppose going to give your brain, his or her life also something good, then okay, give your brain. But the other person, you see, not very sure. Just a life, but create a lot of problem to other. Then better to die. So, gobashani chevachas, junjunong sunatri, kabai ni pendok chishung samtangoro.
So the point His Holiness is trying to make is you need to check and see the pros and cons of what you are doing, which is, if you do something, whether there's greater benefit or greater harm. If it's greater benefit, you should go on. And if it's a greater harm to the other person, then you should not do it. So
next question.
In any situation.
Your Holiness, you mentioned yesterday that our purpose of life is to be happy.
Yes.
How do we help? Especially us, we at the Conrad, we live 24/7 to make people happy. How do you make everybody happy at the same time? How?
I think, according to my own little experience, firstly, smile. And for me, you see, no stranger, when I met, you see, any person, whether Kasota, when they introduce me, I feel unnecessary. So long showing human face, a human brother, sister. So immediately, you see, I Kasota, I show my affection, my smile. And then sometimes, you see, particularly the police with the uniform, when I smile, they not respond, smile. Then what I do is, tickle.
Tickle.
Tickle. Oh, then most cases they smile. So like that, you see, it's much better. Whether know each other before or not, simply, same human brothers, sisters. I want a happy life. They also want a happy life. As I mentioned yesterday, 100% we are same. So, some holy people remain, you see, very, very, very calm. I don't like that. So actually, my practice, as I mentioned yesterday, my physical, my voice, my mind, dedicated well-being of others. That's part of my practice of bodhicitta. That also, not just one life, till space remain, I dedicate it like that. Yes, next question.
Your Holiness, I asked this question in today's context. As a race, we Indians have always been peace-loving, and our effort has always been not to capture others' territory. But in today's context, what is happening is that, everyone is focused on taking over each other's territory, and isn't that kind of in contradiction with what we Indians have believed, that our belief is that we need to preserve our territory and defend it according to what we legitimately feel is ours. But in today's context, like we are always told we need to prepare for war and, be always on alert. So does our wisdom in that sense match up to today's context?
I think national sovereignty also is important. Then in this case, in India's case, I think you have wonderful tradition, wonderful knowledge, and religious harmony. I think this must protect. Okay?
Your Holiness, in the recent past, based on my observation, the religion has been divided into two. Religion for elitists and religion for the common people. So there is a virtual gap between these elitists and the common people. While the elitists choose the peace, meditation and other ways, the common people have chosen hatred and violence. So how do you bring in a common path where both elitists and the common people believe in something which religion can offer?
Kasa. No, I don't think. All major religious tradition dealing with our emotion. Emotion is concerned. The people from upper class, so-called upper class and lower class, same. The way to born, same way. The way to die, same way. Isn't it? So therefore, all major religious tradition dealing with basic human value. So no problem. Yesterday, I think I mentioned today, make sort of kasoda, different caste. That's outdated. That's very much related with the feudal system. Outdated. We must sort of make effort equal. Buddha himself is from one small kasota, prince, princely. But then after he also become Buddhahood, he remained like very, very ordinary monk. There's no record Buddha's kitchen, Buddha's sort of private kasota, account, nothing. He just carry a baking bowl and receive with the other monk. he remained like beggar. So most of the religious leader, and modern time, I think Mahatma Gandhi, not the religious leader, but he inspired the thorough modern education, lawyer. His life is like ordinary Indian, like that. So there is no sort of different religions according different
social status.
Social status. No.
Your Holiness, it's an honor to seek your guidance on this. So when we speak about compassion, we do practice compassion towards other people, but when it comes to non-human beings, in the name of tradition, in the name of food, in the name of culture, in the name of clothing, we perform unspeakable atrocities, and we are so conditioned to be okay with it that how do we deal with this, and is there any way we can make it any better? Because the world seems to be blind to it, at least most of it right now.
The limitless fish, animal, birds, I think too much because of the cruel, millions of animals. I think firstly, we should develop a clear sort of realize these small insects also have their life and feeling of pains and pleasure, and understand that, then restrain harming them. My own case is sometimes during sort of sound sleep, then mosquito come. Then sometimes I do that. Otherwise, we always, pray entire sentient being. And I think too much consumption of meat, fish, egg, like that. I think the most of become monastic institution, they are common kitchen, they are serving only vegetarian food. And then also a small center in Europe or America, Tibetan Buddhist center. I suggest them, individual up to them, but as a sort of group, some festival, these things should serve vegetarian food.
Thank you.
So we must make effort, promotion of vegetarianism. Like that.
Thank you.
So India, Indian vegetarian food, very delicious. So this now must sort of export other country. As far as vegetarian food is concerned, the Chinese vegetarian, not much tasteful. Indian vegetarian food is very good, isn't it?
Your Holiness, you spoke about mental projections and how 90% of our emotions are about whatever we are projecting in front. Also, you spoke about the quantum mechanics, the impermanence and everything. So I want to understand so most of it, since it is projection, so what do we consider as real? What is your definition of reality? What should I consider? Okay, this is real and this is projection.
Yes.
Quantum physics
I think the reality realize when our mind more normal, peaceful, then we can investigate the reality through various angles. So when we experience anger, then that ability is cannot function.
We cannot the brain cannot function to judge what's
when
right now.
negative emotion come, and our mind too much biased. So with that moment, you can't see. We cannot investigate. So I think often, you see, happen, a moment or day you lost your anger.
Temper.
Then the anger diminish, you feel regret. Do you happen? No? So when anger develops, it's normal, our thinking no longer functions properly. Like that. So most of the destructive emotion is very much related with ignorance. So ignorance is just the opposite sort of because of the grasping the reality. Reality, nothing independently exists. But when emotion comes, very basis of appearances, something independently exists. Okay. Next question.
His Holiness, Ahimsa Paramo Dharma is what Buddhism teaches us. But there are many countries which follow Buddhism. Burma, Thailand, Sri Lanka, we see a lot of violence over there. In the words of Kanji Paramacharya, Sri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, he says Buddhism is suited for higher souls, not everybody. And that is the reason why there is bloodshed and military intervention in these countries. So my question is, how far Buddhism is suited in the modern world?
I think Buddhism, one of ancient Indian religion, and the very much emphasis non-violence and respect secular principle. And then wisdom side, maybe I have some little sort of the prejudice, but I think the quantum physics part of Buddhist philosophy. That's Raja Ramana, Indian nuclear physicist. Once he told me, in the West, quantum physics is something new. In this country, 2,600 years ago, already developed quantum physics. So, I think the Indian philosophical sort of field, I think this country, I think much sort of advanced before Buddha come, even before Buddha come, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So I think I think the complicated philosophical view, I think, kept Nalanda tradition. So now, the person who knows something about a Nalanda tradition, you see, we can equally discuss with scientists like that. So these are, I think, worthwhile to preserve. Okay, next question.
The last question, please.
Your Holiness, this is like I'm 12 here and I'm the only kid, I guess. So Mike.
Yes.
So there was this day in my school where everybody had to we got an international country and we had to act as a person in that. So I was selected to be Dalai Lama.
That's good.
Yeah, well, so I did a lot of research. I had to like listen to a lot of your speeches for that, and well, I got a good comments, a lot of them. So my main question was, do you practice compassion, and how do you practice compassion?
compassion.
As I mentioned earlier, you see, yesterday also, the one great, what's the Nalanda master, 8th century, he's writing the Kasa, Bodhisattva Avatar.
Bodhisattvacharya Avatar.
Bodhisattvacharya Avatar. That book, I think, since he wrote, I think that book remained best book about practice of compassion, as I mentioned earlier. So you read that and combine with your own experience. Okay? So when you acting like Dalai Lama, smile, more smile. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next question. Sorry.
No.
Thank you.
Beloved Your Holiness, for your abundance and compassion, on behalf of all of us, I take this opportunity to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I request the Vana team to make the gratitude offering?
Oh. Thank you.
A special thank you to Nishant and his team for the tireless effort and commitment of the past few weeks and making this possible for all of us Bangaloreans. May I request a representative from Max Life Insurance, our patron donor, to please come and make the offering of the kathas. Vana, our major donor, and Miss Sujata Kesavan for her generosity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all, dear friends, for coming by and making this an auspicious event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.